Hey everybody, I am Katrina and from In Cat We Trust on another episode of Kicking Back with Cat. Here I have with me Brett, Ian, Landry. How are you today?
What is up? It is nice to meet you, and it is nice to see everybody, virtually here. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on. So what got you into wanting to work in professional wrestling?
Man, I think the big thing for everybody that's involved in pro wrestling in any way, shape, or form, you start out as a fan, right? So as a kid, I grew up watching wrestling. I watched it with my dad, and then I just kind of spun off from there. And my fandom just kind of grew and grew and grew. And a lot of my friends would, kind of get into it, and then they'd grow out of it and move on to something else or something different. But that didn't happen for me. And not only did I not move on or grow out of it, I only got more and more interested. I eventually started thinking of, man, how can I participate somehow? What can I bring to the table? And that just kind of started me on this journey of discovery. I had to look at, there wasn't a wrestling school in my area at the time. So I was like, I don't know what I need to do. Do I need to move away? I was just kind of exploring all my options. And it kind of fell into my lap in 2010 or 2011. A wrestling school opened up in the New Orleans area, and that kind of kicked it off. It's how I got my start.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And so were you a person who wanted to wrestle at first, or you just was like, I will fit more behind the scenes as far as managing? Because I know you say you wrestle, you manage wrestlers and you produce. So how did you decide to go along that route?
Yeah, I've worn many hats. So of course, as a kid, you want to be a wrestler, right? You see the pageantry of everything. You're like, man, yeah, I want to do that. And you're jumping on, breaking your bed. Sorry, mom. Just, elbow drops and pile driving your friends and all kinds of stuff. So you kind of, you want that, right? No one, well, at least not me. I don't think any kid that watches and loves wrestling would want to watch wrestling and be like, man, you know what I would love to be? A ring announcer. And I'm sure that may be the case for some people, but it certainly wasn't for me. And then I got older, and I've been in and out. I've never really been in shape. I've been in and out of a good physical condition and a not so good physical condition. But I've never really been an athlete. I've never been just sports. I never really got into. I've gone to the gym from time to time, but sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. It wasn't ever a consistent thing. Yeah. And especially with something like professional wrestling, that takes a level of dedication to not only the gym, but to the ring and the work that you do and the physicality. It takes a level of athleticism and dedication that is astronomical. And I knew for me personally, that probably wasn't a place that I was going to be able to get to and be very successful. I probably could have gotten into it, but I wouldn't have been good. So I didn't want to waste my time or a trainer's or a coach's time trying to go down that path when I just at the time didn't have the confidence in myself. So I was like, no, I think I'll approach it a different way. I don't know what I'm going to do. When I showed up to that wrestling school, I don't know what I'm going to do or how I'm going to do it, but I love wrestling with all of my heart. So whatever opportunities, whatever I need to do, just let me know, put them in front of me, and I'll just start knocking walls down. And they were gracious enough to give me the opportunity. And lo and behold, a couple of months into it, I got pulled to the side and said, hey, do you have a suit? I said, well, yeah, pretty sure I got a suit in the closet somewhere. And they said, well, great. You're going to need it because you're ring announcing at this event in like 3 weeks. I was like, oh, okay. So I put on a suit and they handed me index cards and a microphone and off we went. I have never been more nervous for something in my entire life. That was terrifying. But to my surprise, and I would assume the surprise of the coaches and several others, I ended up being kind of a natural at it. Like I felt really good in the ring, and like I felt like I could project my voice well, and like I felt good. I was suddenly hosting the show, and from there it just kind of everything in my wrestling career up until now kind of spiraled from that point.
Oh, nice. Would you say it's been hard having to juggle so many different hats in the wrestling company?
You know, I feel like over time, so my roles would kind of evolve. So I started ring announcing, right? And then after ring announcing for a little bit, I would do some on cameras as a backstage interview, doing back and forth. That was fun. And then I was put on commentary. So I started doing play-by-play commentary. And I would do all three of those things simultaneously. And as I started moving other places in my wrestling career, sometimes I would do a little bit of one and a little bit of the other. And then I would kind of not do one. And then eventually it got to the point where I was transitioning completely. So I was in front of the camera doing these things, but as I was doing these things in front of the camera, I was also learning about the production side of things. And I was learning about the creative side of things. So everywhere from the booking process to agenting matches to the actual like production, like timing the show. And so like all of those things. And as I started getting more immersed backstage, my roles in front of the camera would change. And eventually it got to, I found a wonderful young lady who's a really dear friend of mine named Jess Barton. And I was able to train her to be a ring announcer and sort of take my ring announcing bookings. So I could, and like the interview bookings and such, so I could focus on commentary and then also whatever I was doing backstage. So it kind of came in sections. And then after that, I got my first like GM role. So I'm doing the general manager thing. So that was my first, like dipping my toe in the water of character acting for the first time. And of course that eventually evolved into being a manager, right? Which also came with having to learn how to roll and bump and do a lot of the basics just in case physicality is involved. So yeah, there's been a lot. But I would say that it's only difficult if you're doing multiple roles in the same night. I've always found it difficult to be like working from a back, like working at a gorilla position, and then having to like throw my manager jacket on and go out and do an entire 15-minute match, then come back and do the next segment, like from gorilla. That's always been difficult, but I enjoy the challenge.
Wow, that's a hell of a resume. That's super awesome that you've been able to kind of just like get so much, I guess I want to say thrown at you is not the right term I want to use, but that you was able to like, get so many things and then able to roll with it and work with it. That's amazing. That's super cool.
Yeah, it definitely did not come easy. That is for sure. It is a lot. It is a lot of work. Myself, just like I'm sure many other people that are fans that want to get into the wrestling business, especially creative people that want to do like booking and stuff like that. They'll see it like, yeah, well, I mean, I can do this on WWE 2K on my PS4. Like, I can for sure do it in real life. And let me tell you, it's not even close. I was under that mistake too. I'm in there. I got SmackDown versus Raw. I'm playing GM mode. I'm like, yo, I got this. And then as soon as I actually get there and I'm actually starting to get trained in the role and I see all the ins and outs and all the inner workings, Oh, I was very wrong. It is a lot of hard work and a lot of, in the moment, like in the role education. And man, it's tough to juggle, but it's so rewarding. I love being part of the process.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I just started, like, I do the podcasting, and it wasn't too big of a stretch because I did a reading podcast because I write, on a solo, like, different pen name and everything. So I'm like, okay, podcast is not a big deal. But then doing it in person, I'm like, okay, this is different because you kind of have to roll with the wrestler. Like, if they're in gimmick or like in, promo, then you have to kind of roll with that. And I'm like, yeah, it's way different than kind of just interview them for a podcast, and they're more like themselves. So I can't imagine doing like 20 other things on top of like just trying to like backstage something. I'll be like, wait, too much.
Yeah.
I'll probably like, I'll over talk myself out of that. Like, no, we could just stick to this. It's fine.
I'm sure you've heard plenty of wrestlers on your podcast talk about how when they go through the curtain, there's like a switch that flips. So you go through the curtain and then you are whatever your performance is. And then when you come back to the curtain, you're yourself again. That is an exceptionally harder place to get to for me when I'm also doing other roles.
Yeah.
So I could be timing a match and at Gorilla and I'm on the walkie, I'm talking to the ref, I'm making sure everything goes the way it needs to go. And then as soon as that's over and I put that walkie down, I put the jacket on, if I'm a heel at the time, I got to go out. I got to do all that. And then get booed and get stuff thrown at me and et cetera, et cetera. And then I got to come back and like shake that off. Like, okay, next match is 20 minutes. Line up in Gorilla. Like, so it's definitely weird. But like I said, I love the challenge. Wrestling is such a unique art form.
Yeah.
I like to call it the last remnants of Shakespeare in the Round. When you go see a play, it's audience play. There's not really a lot of plays anymore where it's audience play.
Yeah.
And that style of presentation. So that's what wrestling is to me. And I just, maybe I'm a theater and a comic book dork, but just I've always loved the eternal struggle of good versus evil in wrestling is such a classic and simple story that you can spin a million different ways.
Would you say there's one role you prefer more than the other role? Like, that's like, oh, I love when I'm into this space. Would you say you have one that you like more than the others?
To be honest, when I was first getting in and like, getting my legs under me in the wrestling business, I didn't ever imagine that I was going to be in front of the camera at all. I had mentioned that, I wanted to be a wrestler, but I kind of let go of that. And then I was like, well, then what's next for me? Like, what am I going to do? And as it turns out, being in front of the camera ended up being, again, a way more natural thing than I ever thought it would be. And as my roles have evolved, I really love managing. The interplay that I get to have with whoever it is that I'm managing, and then the interaction with the audience, especially depending on whether I'm a face or a heel. As a face, it's like I get to kind of joke around and be kind of like an over-exaggerated sort of cheerleader type, and when I'm a heel, man, the art of being able to draw heat as a manager while not distracting from what is going on in the match itself, because you're not the focus, they are.
Yeah.
That was always that. At first, that was a little bit of a struggle for me, but when I started to click and I was like, okay, I get it. I realized that, you're not the chicken, you're the salt and pepper.
Yeah.
So once I figured that out, then it got a little smoother. So yeah, I think managing is my favorite thing. It's a very nuanced role. It's a lot more than just like coming out with a guy.
Yeah.
Or if you're a heel, it's helping your guy cheat. Like it's a lot more than that. Like there's more layers to it. And I, again, on the surface, never would have known that unless I had gotten into the role and started doing it. So I have a lot of fun managing.
Would you say you have a favorite moment from managing a wrestler that happened at any show that's like one of your highlights of managing?
Man, I actually have a lot. For me, and I talked a little bit about comic books and good versus evil, that type of thing.
Yeah.
The storytelling of wrestling is what really ignites my passion. And a guy I manage right now, Christian Blake, he and I, the only reason we got together is because we spent 2 years at odds. So he was the babyface champion, and I was the heel manager trying to bring guys to take the title off of him and knock him down. And we spent almost 2 years doing that, trading that title back and forth. Man, I pushed him off of a ladder through a table. He pushed me off of a ladder through a table. It's hard to explain without seeing the entire length of the story all the way through.
Uh-huh.
But those moments are like bookends in this larger story being told. And then finally, Avengers Endgame, right? The moment where Tony puts on the glove, the moment where he's got the gauntlet and he says, "I'm Iron Man," and he snaps. That kind of moment is what I'm always chasing after. And in this show, Christian was defending the title. It was a street fight. It was, all kinds of stuff. And it was also a career match. It was title versus career. So, they're going at it. And then I come out and I've got a chair. And now everybody think, oh my God, here it goes. He's going to waylay Christian. He's going to lose the title, lose his job. They've been trying to kill each other for 2 years. I can't believe it. Here we go. And then I come out and I raise that chair and bam, I hit the other guy. Nobody saw that coming. And I remember coming back through the curtain like I could not take the smile off of my face because it led to the finishing sequence and Christian won, and nobody had this explanation. Like, why? That doesn't make any sense. And that turning point in the story is, God, that was beautiful. I mean, I love the storytelling aspect of wrestling. And at that time, that particular promotion was doing monthly shows. So you would come every single month and you would see the story progress, and you're there year after year. And then you're just, you turn the page of the next chapter. And now you got this cliffhanger, like, what? And that moment will always resonate with me. I love that.
That's great. That's a great moment. I'm always fond of something that the fan can't get right away.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, you're surprised. Like, I feel like a lot of times I can tell things only because I'm a writer. So I feel like certain storytelling you kind of can see. Like, there's like certain like little things. So when somebody surprises me, I'm like, yes, like I didn't expect that at all. So I love that as a fan that you was able to do that for the audience there. And like have them like, oh wow, okay, how did we? So that's amazing. That's an amazing story. What you said you've been a wrestling fan for like a long time, like as I like same here. My brother used to put me in all types of wrestling moves and got us in trouble quite a few times. So for stuff we shouldn't be doing. So who is your favorite wrestler of all time, and what is your favorite match of all time?
This is a question that I get often, and it's very interesting for me. And I don't think you're going to believe my answer. I do not have a favorite wrestler. And that surprises a lot of people. But I really have never had a favorite wrestler. When I was a kid and I was first getting into wrestling, for whatever reason, maybe it was the phenomenon at the time, but the NWO really caught me.
Uh-huh.
So the first wrestling T-shirt I ever bought was an NWO shirt, right? So, and it wasn't even like, Hogan and Hall and Nash, and I liked those guys, and it wasn't even about that. It was just that something about the NWO and the shirt and the doo-doo. I just liked it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of what attached me, and I grew up on WCW. I watched WWF too, but WCW was more was something more for me. But never really an exact favorite wrestler. Favorite match, however, I've got a million of those. But one of my very favorite matches, the first one that came to mind when you asked that question, is the 1992 Royal Rumble, which was Ric Flair's title win of the Royal Rumble. I thought that match was laid out start to finish expertly. And just Ric Flair is one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest professional wrestler of all time. I think it was his first Royal Rumble, his first WWF Championship win. But the storytelling there was great. He comes out as number 3. His manager's on commentary. Oh no, because nobody's ever won from that position before. It was just, mwah, chef's kiss. I really loved that match. It's actually probably one of the only Royal Rumbles that I'll go back and purposefully rewatch. It's that good. Yeah.
I hear you. That was a pretty solid Royal Rumble that year.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a quick swerve away from wrestling because you mentioned comic books, and I'm a Marvel girl. So
Beautiful.
Marvel. So who's your favorite comic book character?
Well, before I tell you that, I'm going to have to plug really quick. I also host a podcast called Tonight We Marvel. We cover the MCU and everything on Disney Plus, and in the movies, we have such a good time. Nice. So everywhere you listen to podcasts, Tonight We Marvel, come have some fun with us as we speculate over Loki and various other things. And Mephisto. Comic books. So I actually grew up on DC. And, as a kid, really loved Batman and, all that kind of stuff. I didn't really pay much attention to because I had friends that loved X-Men and all that, and I knew the movies came out, and I've seen a couple of them, and I didn't really care for it. I never really paid attention to Marvel until the MCU kind of started, and I don't even think it was this big giant master plan when the first Iron Man came out, but when it did, and then it kind of started rolling from there. That's when I started paying more attention. That's when I started going back and reading more comics. And then as far as DC is concerned, especially with the movies that they came out, which the Snyder Cut I thought was a way better rendition of Justice League than the one that came out in theaters. But the games Injustice, if you're familiar with those,
yes,
I feel like those were a better story told than anything that DC has put in theaters. And it kind of broke my heart a little bit. Like, Injustice was great. The Batman Arkham games are fantastic. So it's like, why can't we take this storytelling and translate it to film? So, as time went on, I just kind of lost more interest in DC, and I would just keep an eye on it on the side. But Marvel just started ramping up the creative power behind just everything that they do. Man, I'm blown away by all the new content that they come out with. And kind of like the wrestler thing, I may not have a favorite superhero, but I will say I was very excited when they announced Moon Knight as a Disney Plus show, because I thought that the uniqueness of that character is really fun. Does he really have powers, or is he a crazy person that needs psychological help, or both? And I just thought that was interesting. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that gets portrayed too.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm an X-Men person.
Yeah, I hope Kevin Feige does incredible things with it. I'm looking forward to seeing what he pulls off. But the Fox movies, not so much. Patrick Stewart deserves better.
The only X-Men movie of the Fox ones is Days of Future Past. I absolutely love that movie.
That wasn't bad. I would say that was probably my favorite out of all of them.
It was. And then the other ones, I'm like, no, guys, this is my favorite, like one of my favorite groups of comics. And you guys just, I don't know. I don't know what you're doing.
You didn't watch Dark Phoenix more than once, right?
No. Oh, God, no. No. I was so upset when I watched it the first time. I was just like, what is this? And that's one of my favorite comic storylines.
Oh, yeah. The Phoenix.
So I was like, yes, we're going to finally get it. And then I was like, so what are we doing here, guys? What is this? Why are you worried?
If you watch that movie at the very, very end, if you listen really close, you can hear the horn from Price is Right when you lose. So you just listen really close. Bum, 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 bum. You can hear that. Right at the end of the movie, you can hear it. It's a shame.
It makes me sad.
Yeah.
Them and Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man.
Oh,
He's a Queens first. I'm from Queens, so love
yeah,
Peter Parker.
absolutely.
Peter Parker's amazing. So I was always like really hype about like when he got it, and I love Tom Holland as Peter. Like he's amazing. He's
Oh,
my
I
favorite.
think one of the greatest compliments that Tom Holland or really any actor could have ever received. I think Stan Lee had an interview where he said when he pictured Peter Parker in his head, he was the same age and looked exactly the same as Tom Holland. So
That's
Tom Holland was like what he saw in his head when he was drawing Peter Parker. And I don't know how Tom Holland felt about that, but man, if that was me, like
yeah.
one of the most famous, hands down, one of the most famous comic book characters of all time. And when you, the creator, wrote him, you see me and go, yeah, you're exactly the kind of person I had in mind. I think you're perfect for this job. I'd be like, ah. Just
yes, definitely
incredible.
an honor. Stan Lee was amazing. Like just
Incredible.
what he's done for comics, and you know we got the movies and everything.
Yeah.
So I know before we started, you mentioned there was a project you wanted to talk about. So you know, tell the audience what's coming up.
Yes, yes. So I've had to be a little tight-lipped on this, and there's still only so much I can say for various reasons. But I will say that coming soon to a couple of different national television outlets, there is a new wrestling promotion coming. It's actually an old wrestling promotion from the late 80s and early 90s. It was called Heritage Championship Wrestling.
Oh, I know that one.
It featured, you know, the Rock and Roll Express, the Fantastic Fultons, Dustin Rhodes, Terry Gordy. I mean, you can go back on YouTube and find a lot of the content. Some content was even used for a show that was done out of Louisiana around here called 5 Star Wrestling. They used some clips there. But anyway, you can dig in the archives and find this. It was only around for a couple of years, but it was a who's who of great Gulf South independent wrestlers. Junkyard Dog was there. You have to go see it. If you can dig up any of that footage, YouTube or anywhere else, you can maybe Vimeo or wherever you can find or dig up old wrestling footage. You got to look up some of the old Heritage Championship Wrestling stuff. That being said, it is being revived as Heritage Wrestling coming this fall. It'll be on Circle and Cox Sports Television. And I am very excited to announce that I'll not only be a performer on that show, managing my guy Christian, but I'll also be working with the staff, which includes Colonel Tom Parker, which includes the legendary Les Thatcher. It's something that I've been working my entire career towards, and I'm extremely excited to be involved with a very many talented people. There will be some names and faces that you recognize. There will be some names and faces that you don't. But as time goes on, you will absolutely recognize these men and women. They'll become household names on this show. It's my first national television product. I've been on a variety of different independent shows that have local television, or they produce something for YouTube or Fight TV, things like that. That is an entirely different process from actual television.
Yeah.
It's my first experience with it. I'm very excited about it. Like I said, there's not too much that I can say on it yet. There will be big marketing rush to come out of it at the end of July. So definitely expect to see that in social media and things like that come together. You'll also end up seeing commercials, billboards, radio ads, all that kind of stuff. So I'm very, very excited to be a part of that. And I'm actually going to be focusing my wrestling career on that. So as long as the Heritage Wrestling reboot exists, as long as that TV show is on the air, that is going to be my sole project in professional wrestling. So it's something I'm very passionate about. It's something I believe in very deeply. And I'm really excited to be able to contribute to that product creatively and as a character and as, I guess, a junior producer of sorts, kind of learning the ropes of that side with a lot of people that have a lot of knowledge. Some of these men that are involved as agents and producers of this product have been in the wrestling business longer than I have been alive. And you just can't buy that type of education and background. And I'm really excited to be able to sit under that learning tree. One of my earliest mentors, unfortunately, didn't have a whole lot of time with him, but the conversations that I had with him, Paul Bearer, the conversations that I had with him really opened my eyes to a lot of different things. Sat and talked with him in a couple of locker rooms, and I appreciated his guidance. And I've always wanted some sort of veteran guidance like that in my career. And now I'm getting that in spades, and I'm very, very excited for it. So keep an eye out for Heritage Wrestling. That is coming very soon, and you will see a lot more about it shortly.
Well, first, congratulations. That's super awesome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
really
much.
Awesome. Congrats on that.
Yes, thank you. It's a milestone moment.
Well, before we end the interview, is there anything you want to promote, you want to share with the audience? And as always, I will keep everything described in the description link so people can check it out, share, support, all of that stuff.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to promote myself. Make sure you follow me at Twitter and Instagram at Brettastic1. You can also find me on Facebook, but I don't really use it too much. You'll also find Heritage Wrestling content coming out soon on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. I'll also say that through the course of my wrestling career, I've done a lot of things that I've been very proud of. And I really hope that when Heritage Wrestling comes out, everybody that's watching or listening to this will give that show a chance. I think you're really going to like what we put across. So definitely take a look at that when it comes out. Follow me on socials to get more information about when that stuff comes out. And like I said earlier, Tonight We Marvel. Make sure you look up Tonight We Marvel also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and anywhere that you can listen to podcasts if you want to have some fun talking about comics.
Thank you so much. Again, everybody, I will have all the links he described in the description bar. So please, please, please support. Look out for Heritage Wrestling, correct?
Heritage Wrestling.
Yes. Look out for that. Support, watch. I'm all down for watching all types of wrestling. Wrestling's amazing. So if I can watch whatever, more wins in my book. So thank you. I want to thank you again for joining me today. It was a pleasure talking to you. This is a really, really fun interview.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'd love to be back if you're doing something again.
Of course.
Yeah, look, I'm all ears. I love hearing from fans and everybody. If you have questions, comments, opinions, hit me up.
Great. Until next time, guys, I will catch you later. Bye.